we're gonna do science now. We'll be starting on page 200, but before we do, I want to practice classifying animals. Okay, we're getting prepared. We're doing the animal notebook. All right, so this, where would you put this if you got a picture of this in your animal notebook?
Fish.
Fish. Okay, it actually is a beta. You would not label it fish, you would label it beta. Make sure you spell it correctly. All right, so this is a bird. Don't tell me what it is. I want you to tell me where you would put it. Where would you put it in your animal notebook? Bird. And you shouldn't be labeling this duck because there's breeds of duck. This one is a mallard. All right, so you need to know what kind of duck. It's a mallard. All right. Where would you put this?
Insects.
No, you don't have an insect category. Invertebrates. Your insects are invertebrates, so you put it under invertebrates. And you would need to know what kind of insect this is, right? Does anybody know?
Rhino beetle.
A rhino, you would not say rhino beetle, you have to say rhinoceros beetle. Rhino is shortened for rhinoceros, so you would need to put rhinoceros.
Okay.
Okay, rhinoceros beetle. All right, where would you put this one?
Invertebrates.
Invertebrates again. What is this one?
Worm.
No. Thank you, earthworm. Okay, so there's lots of different kinds of worms, so you have to tell me what kind of worm. This one's an earthworm, okay? What is this? That is not, there is not. You're right, it is a salamander, but you would have to tell me what kind of salamander it is, okay? Find out what kind it is, you could look it up, you would say it's black with yellow stripes, and they would tell you what kind of salamander it is. But there is not a salamander category to classify it in. What is it? Where would you put this picture? Amphibian. It's an amphibian, okay? So you put it in the amphibian section, and you would have to find out what kind of salamander it is. All right, where would you put this one? Mammal. All right, if you just label this a tiger, I would be okay because there aren't a lot of different tigers, but there are Siberian tigers, Bengal tigers. If you do know what kind of tiger you have, then you may put it. But if you don't, since there's only a little different, two different kinds of tigers that I know of, Siberian and Bengal, you would just put tiger, okay? All right, what about this one? Amphibian. Don't tell me what it is, tell me where you put it. All right, and you cannot just put frog, because there's lots of different kinds of frogs. Does anybody know what kind this is?
Tree frog.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that one's a tree frog. But whatever frog you have, you need to know what kind of frog it is. You can't just label it frog. All right, what about this? That would be a reptile. All right, so you put this under reptile, and does anybody know what reptile this is? Chameleon. Very good. You can't say lizard. You have to put what kind it is. This one is a chameleon. All right. What about this one?
A toad.
Don't tell me that. There is no toad section. It's an amphibian. And yes, it is a type of toad. I believe this one is an American toad. But whatever toad it is, you need to know. You need to look it up. You need to make sure you know what it is and label it as such. All right, where would you put this one? Reptile. And this is a type of turtle. But again, you would need to know what kind of turtle is it and put that. Because there's too many different kinds of turtles. What about this one?
Fish.
Fish. This one is a fish, okay, and it is a
Seahorse.
seahorse. All right, what about this one?
Fish.
It is not a mammal. It is a fish. And does anybody know what it is? Manta ray. This is a manta ray. It is a fish, and it is a manta ray. You can't see his gills very well, but if you could see underneath here, you would see gill slits underneath. All right. Where would you put this one? Reptile. And what is it? Red on yellow.
Killer
fella. So who knows what it is?
Coral snake.
Coral snake. If the red is on the yellow, then that's got to be the poisonous one, which is coral snake. All right. Where would you put this one?
Mammals. Or mammals.
Do you see what it is? Do you need your glasses on? Get your glasses on.
I have a bunny.
Yeah. Bunny rabbits are mammals, so that would go under mammals. All right, where would you put this one?
Mammals.
What is it?
Moose.
A moose. That's a moose. See its antlers? All right. Elks are big too, but the moose's antlers are huge. An elk's antlers are more like a deer, but large, but See how wide the moose's antlers get in places? They're really wide.
I also said I didn't say elk.
You did? Okay. I just know somebody did. What's this? Where would you put it? No, don't tell me.
Invertebrate.
Invertebrate, guys. This is an invertebrate. This is not a fish. And if you're not sure, I would look it up. You can look it up and they will tell you what it is. This one is an invertebrate. What is it?
A squid.
A squid. What about this one?
Mammal.
Mammal. What is it?
Wolf.
And if you know what kind of wolf, you can put it because there are. But like tigers, there's not a lot of different kinds. All right, so reptile. Who knows what it is? Iguana. Very good. This one is iguana. This is a reptile, and you would label it iguana. What about this one?
Bird.
Who knows what it is? It's a roadrunner. All right. They are real. Even though they're in the cartoon, they are real. Roadrunner. All right. What about this one?
Fish.
And what is it?
Clownfish.
Clownfish. Very good. All right. What about this one?
Fish.
Fish. Do you know what it is?
Bass.
Bass. Specifically, I think it's a wide-mouth bass, but if you put bass, I would not count it wrong. Bass is good enough. All right, what about this one?
Bird.
Bird. Does anybody know what it is?
It's a hawk.
It's either a hawk or a falcon, but again, like I said, you need to know when you get that picture, when you choose that picture, you write it down. They're gonna tell you what it is when you're looking that picture up. So it's either some kind of hawk or some kind of falcon. Again, I don't know which this one is. They just gave me these pictures. They don't say what they are, where I have them. But it is some kind of hawk or some kind of falcon. Okay, so you need to know what it is. What about this one?
Mammal.
What is it?
Gorilla.
What about this one?
Invertebrate.
It's an invertebrate. It's not a lobster. It's a
Scorpion.
It's a scorpion. Alright? It is a scorpion, which is a type of insect. Alright, what about this one?
Bird.
What is it?
Crane.
Crane. Yeah, that is a crane. And what about this one?
Reptile.
Reptile, and that would be a alligator because of its wide snout. Remember, a crocodile snout gets super narrow and skinny. The one with the wider snout is the alligator. All right, let's start on page 200. We are still talking about animals, but we're moving more into their habitat. So we're going to talk about animals from a certain area. All right? So let's start with the terms to remember. Habitat, the natural home of a plant or animal. All right, so that's what habitat means, and that is something you'll have to put in your little report, your little paragraph. You'll have to tell me about their habitat. 2 sentences about their habitat, 2 sentences about their appearance, and 2 sentences about their behavior. Okay, we'll talk about that more later. Next one is flock, a group of birds. So when you see a group of birds that live together, whether it's Canadian geese, flamingo, you call that group of birds that live together a flock. All right, then hibernation, a deep winter sleep to store energy, like bears. Bears hibernate for the winter, okay, because their food is scarce. All right, then dew, the moisture that condenses on plants as they cool in the night. And we're going to learn about some animals that is how they get their water, from the dew that collects from the plants. All right, migration, the movement from one place to another with the change of seasons. All right, especially think of Africa, and they have rainy season, and then they have this dry season where they have to migrate so they can actually have water. Otherwise, their water holes dry up, so they have to migrate to a place where there's going to be water. Elephants do it, herds of animals do it. Okay, birds do it. Okay. Next one is herd, a group of grazing land animals that stay together for protection, like zebra, gazelle, all right? Even cattle, there's a herd of cattle, and they're grazing animals. So a herd is a grazing animal, right? They eat grass and bushes and trees. All right, then we have fresh water, water having very little salt, such as in a lake, pond, river, or stream. So your lakes, your ponds, your rivers, and streams, those are all fresh water. What would salt water be?
Ocean.
The ocean. oceans and even bays. Bays that lead into the ocean, like the Chesapeake Bay.
Yeah.
Since it leads into the Atlantic Ocean, it's still gonna be salt water, right? And then salt water, water having much salt, such as ocean, as in ocean habitats, or the bay, which the same creatures that live in the ocean usually live in the bay, but usually you're not gonna find like whales in the bay, unless they've sort of gotten lost, and then hopefully they'll find their way back out again. All right, habitats. Have you ever wondered why some animals do not live where you live? If you were to look out your bedroom window, you would not see a tiger prowling by or a penguin waddling across your street. Unless you live near them, you would never see a giraffe or zebra on your way to school. In the United States, the only place to see these kinds of animals is in a zoo. God has designed animals to live in habitats. A habitat is the natural home of a plant or animal. In each habitat, we find a community of plants and animals that depend on each other for life. Habitat communities are everywhere. In forests, deserts, grasslands, oceans, lakes, rivers, and even in frigid climates where it's really, really cold, there are certain creatures that can live there, right? God has given them the ability to adapt and live in a cold, cold climate. There are land habitats and water habitats. Plant and animal life in a land habitat is well suited to its soil and climate. A water habitat has the right water for the plants and animals that thrive there. Would you ever find a whale in a lake?
No.
No. Okay. So, again, not unless, like, you know the Great Lakes?
Yeah.
I think one time there was a whale that actually made its way up a river from the ocean and ended up in one of the Great Lakes one time. But that is very odd and strange because that's not typical, okay? Somehow it managed to make its way up the river and ended up in one of the Great Lakes. But that's not its normal habitat, is it?
No.
All right, top of the next page. The animals that live in a habitat need 4 important things. They need, and you need to know this, space, shelter, water, and food. So what do animals need to live in a habitat? Space, shelter, water, and food. And by the way, they are not talking about space like where astronauts go. They're just talking about room.
Yeah.
They need room, space, all right? All right, so let's talk about space. Space. God designed animals with habitats and equipment to help them live in their habitat. The biggest land animals, such as elephants and giraffes, live in grassland habitats where there is room for them to roam. Giant whales live in the open ocean. A tiny decomposer, such as a worm, could spend its whole life in the habitat of a rotting tree stump. So its habitat would be that tree stump, and it never even leaves that tree stump its whole life. Does that make sense? God has each animal living in the right habitat for its design. Some animals do not always live in one area, but move when the seasons change. This is called migration. So when animals move with the change of the seasons, it's called what? Migration. In colder seasons, they migrate to warmer climates to find food or have babies. Perhaps you have seen a flock of birds fly south for the winter. Top of the next page. Now, space. Next one is shelter. All right, they show you there a badger den, and then they show you raccoons living in the hollow of a tree. Those are little baby raccoons sticking their heads out. They're getting really curious about what's going on outside their world. All right. When I was growing up, we'd go to my aunt and uncle's house, and they lived right on a lake, and they had a big wooden walkway that went from their house all the way down to the lake. And there was this big tree right beside the wooden walkway, and it had one of those hollows in it like that. And there were little raccoons in it one time when we were there visiting. And those little raccoons started to come out on the limb, and their mama came back, and she scolded and scolded them for coming out and leaving their hiding place. But they were starting to get curious about what was in the outside world. But you could hear her as she was just scolding and chattering at them as she came back up to like, get back in there. You're not supposed to be out. All right, badger den. All right, so he would have dug a place to live, and raccoons can live in hollow trees. for one thing. They probably could have a den too, but animals need the right homes in which to live. Some animals have one shelter, such as a tree, burrow, or den. Others travel from place to find food. In open grassland habitats, animals often take shelter with each other. This is why elephants, zebras, and giraffes travel in herds. A herd is a group of grazing land animals that stay together for protection. Being in a group makes it harder for a predator to hunt them. They can outnumber a predator. If a predator is nearby, they will warn the other animals in the herd. In colder climates, herding together helps keep animals warm. Now, of course, elephants wouldn't have to worry about that, but other grazing animals that live in cold climates could. They could get together in a small group, and I think they even might maybe take turns getting in the middle so that you can warm up. Some animals need shelter during the winter months to hibernate. Hibernation is when animals fall into a deep winter sleep. God has given their bodies a way to stay dormant through winter to store energy. In other words, they don't have to eat. All right? They just eat a lot right before they go to hibernate, and then they just stay asleep for the winter because it's harder for them to find food. Next, we have space, we have shelter, and now we have water. All animals need water. Land animals need the right water source for the way God designed their bodies. Some animals need to live very close to a water source because they drink water every day, like the deer. I showed the deer right there. The next time you are outside in the early morning, look down at the grass. Do you see the beads of water? This is dew. Dew is the moisture that condenses on plants as they cool in the night. It gives plants moisture, and some animals use it to quench their thirst. In habitats where liquid water is scarce, like in a desert, excuse me, many animals depend on dew as a water source. Animals can get water in very creative ways. Most desert animals get water from the seeds and plants they eat. A camel can go many days without water because of the way God designed its body systems to work. While most land animals use water for drinking, water animals live in water habitats. There are two main kinds of water habitats: freshwater and saltwater. Ocean habitats are saltwater habitats. Lake, ponds, rivers, and streams are freshwater habitats. The plants and animals in them are designed to live there. And they do show a picture of an ocean habitat there. And I believe they show a picture of a freshwater habitat. I see a pond with creatures that live in a pond. Top of the next page. Habitats provide four things for animals. They are space, shelter, water, and food. And I'm pretty sure you need to know that for the next quiz. All right, so without looking, what are the four things needed in habitat for animals? Space, shelter, water, and food. All right, now look at the matching. Moisture that condenses on cooled plants. Dew, which is letter A. To fall into a deep winter sleep to store energy. Hibernation, letter E. Group of grazing land animals that stay together for protection. Herd, letter D. A group of birds. Flock, letter B. And movement from one place to another with a change of seasons. Migration, which would be letter F. Ocean habitats. Saltwater, letter G. Lake, pond, river, and stream habitats.
Freshwater.
Letter
C.
All right, I'm going to review really quickly. The quiz is going to be on Friday. I walked away from the video so you can hear what I'm saying. All right, this is going to be a quick review. I may not be able to review everything because I haven't read everything that's going to be on the quiz on Friday, but I'll review what I can. The movement of animals from one place to another when the seasons change. No, movement, guys. Migration. Natural home of a plant or an animal. Habitat. An animal that depends on grass for food. They usually go in a herd. Actually, we haven't had this yet. We sort of talked about them. A herd, they are grazers. They are called grazers. We talked about them because we talked about the herd. We didn't actually call them grazers yet. They are grazers. A group of grazing land animals that stay together for protection. Herd. I just told you that one. So you better not get that one wrong. You know what? That's all we have. But you do need to know 4 things needed in a habitat for an animal. Space,
Shelter,